Hi, my name is Ryan Johnson. I'm one of the owners here at the Guild of Blades Publishing Group. I'm also one of the original designers of the 1483 board game series prior to it getting migrated into the multiplayer online game that it is now. Today I want to talk a little bit about the unit of artillery. I think it's one of the units that's most misunderstood in the game and least effectively used by players. I haven't really thought about its strengths and its weaknesses. Artillery are one of the most expensive units that you can buy for land units, costing 10 resources. Only knights are more expensive at 11. In traditional battles, artillery can be both great and powerful or weak depending on where they are. Artillery are best used when defending cities or attacking cities, and I'll talk about that in a second. Artillery are a little bit more like infantry in that they only move one, and they have a very weak attack traditionally. When fighting normal troops, they only have an attack of 1 out of 10, so a 10% chance of hitting. But they defend at 5 out of 10. Also, if an artillery is defending inside a city, the artillery gets the fortification bonus that the infantry gets. So if the fortification's, say, a 5, the artillery is actually getting to fight on a 7, so he's got a 70% chance of hitting. Now, the most important thing to remember about artillery is they have first strike, but unlike knights, their first strike is kind of like super first strike. So artillery will actually kill anything the artillery successfully roll to hit and kill is removed from play before any other battle happens. This is whenever an artillery is fighting and hitting units. Now, that happens most of the time. The only time that does not happen is when an artillery is attacking a city, and then the artillery kind of has a different function. But when artillery are defending in cities, attacking in land territories, or defending in land territories, artillery is very powerful because of its super first strike. Now, you really don't want to be using artillery to attack much, simply because if you're attacking non-city territories with artillery, they're only attacking into 1. The first strike is powerful, but only they can hit something. And when they're only attacking into 1, you're just not going to hit very often. However, artillery can be great to help you hold non-city territories, because if they're defend at a 5 with the super first strike, they only fight a tiny bit worse than cavalry and knights, but they get first strike above both of them. So if your forward advanced forces, whether they be infantry, cavalry, knights, or a combination thereof, can take a front line in a battle, if you've got a force of artillery that can come in to turn afterwards to help hold it against counterattacks, artillery is a great land unit that can help offset the first strike power of enemy knights. But also gives you defensive power in cities, which tends to be a less desirable use for your knights to defend cities. So a mixed force of infantry and artillery on the defensive can be extremely powerful. The other thing people really seem to misunderstand about artillery is their value in taking cities. Cities add pretty significant fortification values to infantry sometimes, making infantry extremely powerful on the defense. A city like Constantinople with a fortification of 9, of course, is adding +3 to every infantry and artillery defending. So you got artillery defending at 8 and infantry defending at 9. That's an 80% and 90% chance of killing an enemy unit every round of battle. That's pretty significant. You bring enough artillery in, the artillery, when attacking a city, have an attack value of 5. That's a 50% chance of hitting. However, initially, they do not hit enemy troops. What they're doing is actually hitting those walls, the walls of Constantinople or the walls of any other fortified city. Every time an artillery hits in that battle, it's going to reduce the fortification by 1. This happens before any other troops roll. So if you bring 12 artillery to attack Constantinople and you manage to get lucky enough to hit 9 times, Constantinople will be adding 0 fortification bonuses to the infantry and artillery defending. So instead of artillery there would be defending at 8, that's an 8 out of 10 first strike, even against your knights and the infantry. First strike is deadly. The amount of artillery in a well-fortified city, very deadly. So if you bring your artillery to attack, you're really going to help offset the power of the city. But that is, I think, the way most people use artillery, but they really miss the concept that artillery also have very strong, have first strike, super first strike, even on non-city territories. So while the attack is pretty useless for artillery, 1 out of 10, wouldn't recommend using them for offensive might. But on defense, on cities and on non-cities, they're very potent. And I think that's the key thing people really miss about artillery. I know they're expensive. You wouldn't want to build an army of all artillery. You won't be able to absorb the losses. But a mixed force of, say, infantry, artillery, and then a fast-moving element, either knights or cavalry, can be pretty potent. So just something to think about when you're buying your troops.